So I think I would like to call on my dear brother, my mentor, and then someone who has been so wonderful. This idea started all together with him, and then the whole planning itself really just starts and lead up to it. The whole planning itself, it was getting all through. So I would like to call him on to end the person in something supposed to be started with a mayor himself, but he's not here yet. So I'd like to call my brother to give a welcome remark to our guests as we begin today. And that's in the person of Dr. Akan. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Good morning.
My mind is thinking this morning, you see. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and welcome to the very first meeting of students. I think I came from Lancaster this morning, and I remember I was talking with Andrew, and I said it would be good in the sense to really get a clearer feel as to the current students from an Anglo State University. Obviously, some folks are traveling from different parts of the UK. And I imagine that the dinner might have a bit more numbers than you have at the current event, which is very unique. But I think as it's progressed so far, as it is at the moment, we have to make a move anyway. I want to welcome everybody. And those things, the very first event, I think it should have been planned a bit more better in terms of publicity. Even if while I left the rooms, I was just walking around and just talking to seeing different African students in the university around, and many of them didn't even know the event was holding in their university. So that's not a good. And I want to just get a feel as to how, even within the campus that was promoted, many of them didn't know anything was happening today. Anyway, as it happens, we have to just progress and proceed. I'm hoping that we can have some good connections. I remember before this, because I was telling you a story about, it sounds like a million years ago now, when I began the Nigerian International Conference of International Nigerian Students in the UK. And for the first year, we had maybe less than 60 or 70 people the very first year. And I can remember it was not very well organized, it was chaotic. But then obviously the planning committee got their acts together. Then when they progressed to the second and third year, it became the biggest event in the entire UK for 10-year running. So yeah, we're hoping that this is just teething problems for the very first trial at an event of this nature, and I'm believing it to get better. So anyway, I want to welcome the guests, those are travel from far and wide, and I'm hoping that you have a good interaction today. I'll also believe that maybe the basis of the event should be changed in a way to encourage interactions between the folks in the room, as against the initial and presentations of speeches, as in case. But I'll take that to the organizers. Thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you. Please, let's also appreciate the round of applause, please. I will also like to do a welcome back. I do not have much in depth with that. I would rather want to do that, use that to appreciate those who have been planning this up. So, we all started. Like I said, it is not just one person, neither is it two. the idea started with even like 4 of us, and then it can only be made possible. We've started planning for this program since February. So I wouldn't do any justice if I do not appreciate those who are then planning this together with us. Many of them are still preparing for preparing for the dinner. Some who are managing food, those who are managing, they are all over Cambridge. They are in Cambridge at the moment. So I cannot but appreciate every one of them. So I'm going to use this video to itemize all those who started together. Please help us with a round of applause for that. So, why I had to play this video is even for the purpose of the program itself. Our host here, and I mean in terms of those who have been here 10, 20, 30, 40 years or even from birth, they have privileges that we're coming from afar are not open to. Every person you see on that list does everything they do from a point of view of, from a position of inconvenience. Either someone is battling with health issue, or accommodation issue, or visa issue, or job issue, or even academics. Yet they commit their time to all this. They still went a step further to commit their time to things that can inspire others. And many of them are even leaders from all different universities across the UK. Presidents of Nigerian society, one of them is here. He was the former president of University of Delhi. And we have many of them, University of Granting, the one that was just asked to go and get shares, and many. Despite the challenges, they take that step further to still do something about their peers. And these are people who, when you look at their steps, the highest of them will be 3 years in this country. And that's even a year of stability, yet to do something. And that's why we talked about this program. That in the midst of all the challenges, we cannot continue to recycle the problem. We just have to do something. And funny thing about this is, many of us, especially those who came to study here, have climbed the ladder of where we're coming from in Africa and have gone to the, if not the peak, close to the peak. And have been able to acquire so much to be able to afford to even come here in the first place. What it takes to come here to come and study is not something you just pick on the street of Africa. Nigeria, for instance, you will need nothing less than 7 million naira to be able to get here to study. That's the least. Now it's even far worse. You need up to 30 million naira to study here. That's not something you pick on the streets of Nigeria. So people have climbed that high ladder, but you can't jump from one mountain to the other. You have to come down to the depth of the mountain to be able to climb the UK ladder again. And that's what they've been trying to do. In the midst of that, some get lost while trying to survive, while trying to they get lost in the middle of it, survival, academics, whatever, what have you. But some are still, despite the challenges, trying to try. And that's why we are bringing this together as whatever you have been doing back in Africa that has helped you to climb that ladder, you don't need to let go of it. You can bring it out to life once again. There is an idea in you that can turn into a profitable venture. And it has even brought profits where you're coming from. And of course, we can encourage that to bring that back again. And that's why we call it rebirthing or igniting the innovation in us. So, without wasting much of our time, this is just the background to the whole program. And I hope before the end of the program, we will have been able to achieve the main purpose. And that's to encourage our students and our recent graduates into innovation. Thank you. So here I would like to hand over to the moderator himself, in person of Mr. Salami Mustafa, the former president of University of Delhi Nigerian Student Society. Over to you. Thank you.
Absolutely, everyone. Thank you very much, Honorable Andy. I feel honored to be in the midst of very strong people here. Before I actually say anything, I would just like to say something. I've actually known Honorable Andy since when I was the president of the University of Derby, but unfortunately we've never met face to face. But there is one thing about him which I'm actually interested in is the passion in actually bringing Nigerian students together. Because ever since I've known him, he's always about what can we do to make the life of Nigerian students better, even outside school. Because I think while I was in school, the Union of Students was there, but obviously I've graduated now and you really do not have any business with the school anymore. I think Honorable Andy has actually done a very, very good job because I think with him, I was able to still keep that contact with the student community and contributing whatever I can. So this being here today has actually been a lot of planning, and we thank God we're here today. So thank you very much, Honorable Andy. So the next thing on the sorry, I did not recognize anyone. So let me see if I can try to pick from the picture. Yes, okay. I recognize the presence of Dr. Akanimo Odon, who is the Chair, African Union Science Research and Innovation Council UK, is one of our keynote speakers today. Okay, I also recognize the presence of Mr. Smith, Mr. David Smith. It's good to have you here. Welcome, sir. I also recognize the presence of everybody here today. I also recognize the presence of Christina Ionita. Thank you very much for joining us. So I won't waste much time anymore. I think it's time to move to the next thing on the agenda. Dr. Ahmed. Zero.
Somebody else. Presentation.
Let's move to the
Mr. David Smith, thank you very much.
I think I'll start by saying, can you hear me at the back? I want you all to move close. I can actually hear myself.
So what we're trying to do is, let's try to make sure we capture everything.
Yes.
We're going to share this with as many participants as possible, since everybody's here anyway.
That's the one. And it's so checkable, do I have to ask you to change?
I'm happy to assist.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I was so pleased last year to meet Dr. Ahmed, and I'm very sorry not to see him here today. The work that he's doing in terms of building relations with Africans in diaspora in science and research, and the programs that they can bring is really important. A lot of our work is about bringing people and knowledge and technology together with funding and investment. And quite a lot I hear, there's no funding for Africa. We can't get the funding. And that's not the case. The funding is there. It's there and it's plentiful. What is missing, and why I say, where is the business plan? So, linking UK business to Africa is what I do. So I was delighted when I read the agenda for today and found that that was my point on the agenda. So I know what I'm talking about. But importantly, what many of us have not recognized is that together we accelerate economic development on the continent. Individually, it is very difficult. Hello, can you do some more economic development in Egypt, please? Well, Malawi, work a bit harder. It doesn't work like that. Let's move on to my favorite picture from Facebook. The AI team in Facebook decided to plot every connection in Africa. So you can see large clumps of orange. When the clumps double in size, I'm not quite sure how they're going to do it. But over the next 25 years, the population of Africa is scheduled to double. That means more houses, more hospitals, more roads, more schools, more universities, more businesses, more fields, more forests. Huge amount of work to be done. I must salute the Sustainable Development Goals, but I have to say my expectations have not been fulfilled. Sure. So what we're doing is bringing our focus on to business through SME partnerships, stimulating major projects, and then engaging with the Africa-friendly investors. We're looking for valid, viable, qualified projects. And to give you an idea of what's on my to-do list, next slide. This is my to-do list.
Are you copying it?
We start with Angola at the top left, and we end with Zimbabwe down here on the right. 130 pages of A4 of projects that our members are bringing forward in one form or another. I went to Togo last November. I came away with 26 projects in Lomé, and then an introduction to 8 of the other communes. There are 116 communes in Togo. And if you just said those 8 had 10 projects each, I came away from a week and a half in Togo with 106 projects. There is no shortage of work to be done. But what we're working on is 185 million going into agriculture in Zimbabwe. A 25% increase in yield on agricultural produce. It's approximate. Some crops a little more, some crops a little less. But can you imagine rice, an increase in nutritional value of 19%, an increase in yield of 29%, and an investment in this product called EcoStim, which comes from Sussex, $185 per hectare of EcoStim delivers $3,500 of extra revenue. Now, when you start looking at agriculture in Africa with that lens, it becomes very exciting. Thanks. In Tanzania, we're involved with a company from Lancaster who are planting 34 million trees. What they do with those trees is raise carbon credits. And using those carbon credits, they're contributing to the education of young people from Tanzania, because the 34 million trees are divided by 17,500 secondary schools. The project is called Study with a Tree. Look for Study with a Tree on LinkedIn and you will find all about that program. Next. In Sierra Leone, we're working on the development of 8,000 houses. We're going to create something like 16,000 new jobs. We're going to create 8 vocational colleges. And we're going to train 28,000 students a year. And our plan is to negotiate with the government there for this to be a rolling program over 5 years. So 28,000 times 5, 100,000 or more people who are involved in learning how to do things and run businesses. And why are we doing this? Well, there are some pretty critical things that we need to address. And I heard it in your introduction. So, and when they made me an outlaw, they took my ability to come and say, hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. I was breaking the law. I probably had a beer, so I could have been arrested. But during the pandemic, I sat down with some research. And I looked at GDP per head as being a way of finding some sort of equality between what's going on in different places. And I'm going to point out 3 things here. Here in the UK, in 2020, just by being here, we generated $40,284 a head. While in Burundi, they struggled to do 75 per head per year. The biggest economy in Africa, Nigeria, $2,097. And the world average, just $11,000. So Nigeria has to grow 5 times to get to be a world average economy. So for those of you who didn't make it today, that is our challenge. On to the next slide. And Nigeria sits here. How many Nigerians in the room? Just one, two, three, four? Okay. Well, I'm not saying this as an insult, but you're top of the second division. Now, I've just recently added the arrows at the top there. These guys need to grow twice. This is the 5 time zone. This is the 10 time zone. This is the 20 time zone. And down here, 40 times. But you will need a time machine because you have to go back to 2020 to deliver those improvements. So we've already taken 4 years and we haven't made much impact. Next slide. Because this is where we are now. UK is at 48,860 or something. World average is 13,138. Sub-Saharan Africa, 1,636. So when you employ someone and you pay them £2,000 a year, you're paying them more. When they get to earn 10,000, you're bringing them towards this level. But we need to do that for 1.2 billion people. And we've got population growth going on. So we actually need to be budgeting on 1.6, 1.8 billion people earning that sort of money. So let's talk about Cambridge. Here we are in Cambridge. We have 6,292 business professionals, of which 6,285 didn't make it today. We have 1,500 people with EMEA notifications about their job. So they have budgets, they have projects, they have contracts that are about building business in Africa. Why are we not talking to them? Kenya 324, Nigeria 296, Tanzania 235, Ghana 226, Egypt 217. Uganda, going all the way down, 8 people from Gabon. Now, I haven't searched all the countries because I didn't have time to do that, but it gives an indication of the Africa-oriented business audience in Cambridge. How many Cambridge companies are thinking about taking their products to Africa? Who knows? Next. This is a picture of the 506,000 across the UK, about a third in London, about a third in places where we have contracts and members, and about a third in others. Places like Huntingdon, because I haven't chased Huntingdon. I haven't done Derby either. But when you talk about the potential of Africa, these people have technology, they have expertise, they have knowledge, they're looking for finance, they're looking for investment. How do we mobilize them? And when you look at the whole 506,000, South Africa, 99,000, but they run away for a different reason. I think run away is the right expression. Nigeria, 75,000. Why is there no Chamber of Commerce for Nigeria in the UK? Kenya, 37,000. How many people from Kenya here today? How many people from Cambridge going to Kenya on the UK-Kenya trade mission tomorrow? So these are some of the issues that we need to be looking at in terms of what we do to engage with business, to engage with investment, to engage with development and solving some of the problems that you were alluding to earlier in your movement. So our strategy is, on to the next, let's look at the issues of our 3 core markets. So we have African issues, government partnerships, big business, infrastructure, funding, UK and international partnerships. What do we do about the $1 million startup? How can we use startup business that is big enough to deal with the problem, but you don't have the track record. Massive SME group. Turn some of those micro businesses into small businesses into medium-sized businesses. We've got to move it forward. Social inequalities, desperation. Diaspora issues. The need to address the African issues, because we know, because it's our auntie, it's our brother, it's our cousin, it's our nephew, it's our niece. How do we find funding? How do we minimize risk? I have a 9 to 5, sorry, I have to go. And then you've got the UK perceptions. I know quite a bit about this. We need new markets. We can't afford to pay our nurses and our doctors what they think they ought to earn. Our bus drivers are a bit of a problem as well, and we're not doing too well on the trains. And we've got into the habit of saying, Mr. Government, please give me a handout. I'm a consultant. I'm working for the country. Please. Who's got a bounce back loan? Who's paying their bounce back loan off? And when we look at Africa, we look at corruption and political risk and currency risk, and there are all sorts of other reasons why we don't want to go there. It's a high cost of engagement. Have you stayed at a hotel in Lagos recently? £400 a night. I think we should work with people we know, like the French and the Germans. So actually, there's a whole stack of work to be done in addressing some of these perceptions that, as far as Africa is concerned, are mostly wrong, mostly unfounded, and mostly in need of an update. Next. So, my proposal to this meeting is that we should walk away as members of the Cambridge Africa Business Alliance, and that here we are, where we are, we will do what we can. Nobody can ask more than that. But actually, if we had a few conversations around the room, we'd probably find points of interest where we could collaborate on things. The rest you've seen before, so next. So if we were to create a hub to drive business into Africa from Cambridge, we'd want to work with our friends. So who are our friends? Well, our high commissions and embassies, which will give us reach into all the ministries and parastatals. They're our friends. The UK government wants to be our friend, but they don't know how to be a friend. The African diaspora, with its links in the UK and in Africa, and then our members are our friends, our affiliates are our friends, and contacts with UK businesses in Cambridge, with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Institute of Directors, with Federation of Small Business, with BNI and others. There are a lot of people who could act positively towards this sort of organisation. It needs to be African-led. We have a team system. That means no responsibility falls on one person. It becomes something that is shared responsibility. And then we can start talking about investing in Africa. Now, whichever way you look at it, railways, roads, and logistics are incredibly important if we're going to deliver on African continental free trade agreement. Africa needs to feed the world. This is some ridiculous figure, like 60% of unadopted agricultural land or agriculture is in Africa. Community development. You go 50 miles from your capital city. No, let's take it down. 10 miles from your capital city. How many centuries are you going back? community development, education, health, waste. I teased the people I spent time with in Gabon because as I was driven around and I was shown the city of Libreville, I came across various piles of electricity sitting on the side of the road. I said, "You're funny people here. Why do you leave your electricity on the side of the road?" They looked at me and they said, "What's he talking about? Who is this strange man?" Waste is electricity. You process it right. There's waste in agriculture, all those avocados that fall to the floor. Anyone know the price of a litre of avocado oil? $20 a litre, £20 a litre in the UK. So if you could process those avocados that fell, that no one had the appetite for, and make them into oil, we wouldn't be talking about Nigerian oil, Angola oil, or any other oil. We'd be talking about avocado oil. And what about the waste in people? How do we mobilize the waste in people and financial services? I think it's very poor. Is it not creating bullion? Why are the diaspora not buying gold in Africa? At the cost of moving that gold to Dubai. Has no one heard of Fort Knox? Build Fort Knox in Africa. Diaspora investment, tourism, IT, young people. These are all the things that we need to be talking about. And this is what I wanted our audience to be focused on when we were talking today. Thanks. I wanted to give them this lesson, and that is, investors invest in what they know. The easiest way for me to lose money is to take my wallet out and invest it in the sector I know nothing about. Because the fleecing starts before it's left my hands. Now, with so much to be done, we need experts in all the sectors that we're talking about to step forward and lead. We need the technology from Cambridge to support those experts. And we need the political will in the domestic market to support that. And in doing that, we have a chance of rescuing some of that investment I say is so plentiful. I love this. I found it on Facebook in January this year. And he's been a friend of mine on Facebook. I've never met him. But he digs boreholes. And before he retires, in 3 years, he wants to make sure that most of his villages in his country have water. And in doing that, he will be helping them to climb up the 1636 greasy pole. So become a catalyst for change for Africa, bring your knowledge, your opportunities, your potential, link it to our network of other people with all these facilities and see what we can do. I was talking with Dr. Toomey earlier about the football ground in Oxford, which is looked after from a security point of view by one of our members. And he rang me and he said, "David, I need you to talk to my friend in Abuja. He's very well connected." "Oh, yes." And the conversation went on to talk about trains. Well, I got on the train in East Grinstead, I got off at East Croydon, I got off on again at East Croydon, and I got off in Cambridge. That's what I know about trains. He says, they need you to refurbish a train network. And for those of you who know Trying and Hornby and one or two other things like that, that's my knowledge of trains. Thanks. But what I've learned over the time that I've been working with Africans in the UK over the last 15 years is that there are lots of machines for making money that nobody knows about. So this little 80 kilograms of bent metal will help you build 12 to 15 houses a year. Gentlemen took 2 of these to Djibouti. his first year's turnover was $300,000. So anybody want to make money? Go to Djibouti with 2 of these machines and make $300,000. Then you can go for a world cruise. This is a vibrating plate machine. We've all heard about schools and nursery schools and other buildings that fall down because the concrete blocks that it was made with weren't right. You cannot make blocks stronger than with this machine. It takes the air out of the block. So this is the machine that will make the 8,000 houses in Sierra Leone. Next. And these are the apartment blocks it's being used for in Ghana, for the Ghana Army. And that one's in Malawi. And that one is part of a project to move 2,000 people out of the Kibera slum in Nairobi. They built a whole village called Kapate. You can do roofing, you can do paved driveways, you can do systems. It's a very flexible machine. Anyone wants to know about it, buildworks.co.uk. Next. I love this. You're all familiar with a shipping container. It's just this big. Inside, you've got the solar panel array. With it, you have a water purification system, and you also have a satellite link. So driving this to your village, 50 miles from your capital city, or however many miles from your capital city, you have 3-phase power. You have 8,000 litres an hour of fresh drinking water to World Health Organization standards, and you have a satellite connection. How would the local school do if it had this?
It's phenomenal. Well,
You have to go a long way to find this. You have to go to Petworth in Sussex. You don't have to go to China. You have to go to Petworth in Sussex. Next. This freezer comes from Cape Town. It does 500 kilos in 24 hours of ice. Uses just 2 hours of electricity in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. 500 kilos of ice at $1 a kilo, 50 cents, $250 a day. Why are we talking about 1,636 pounds? Next. Anybody have a shower today? Did you buy your shampoo from Aurora? Aurora's down on the south coast of South Africa. She does Nature's Labs Organics. Her father-in-law did my soap shop. This little machine will do 2,000 litres per day of shampoo, body wash, washing up liquid, household cleaner, whatever you want, 20 different recipes. Can you imagine the sisters selling to the aunties and the grannies, and you're building a multi-level network marketing program in a town 20 miles outside Jos or outside Nairobi or outside anywhere? Next. Zimbabwe and the 10,000 farmers. This is the thing behind the rice that I was telling you about, but also behind tomatoes. In Zimbabwe, they got a 30% increase in yield and 4 days extra shelf life. The tomatoes, which perish quickly in the heat, 4 days extra is a huge amount of added value to the farmer. This is the sort of technology we need to be taking across the continent. Next. This is going to go on because they leave their electricity in the street, and they're going to put in 35 tons of rubbish per day, and they're going to get 1 megawatt of electricity out. Say goodbye to brownouts. And that is 6 shipping containers in a local area. So it's for a town. It's for maybe somewhere between 500 and 1,000 houses. Oh, I love this one. Did anybody see all the mangoes falling on the floor? This will process 1,000 kilos of mangoes an hour into juice. It will pasteurize the juice and it will put it into a 50-litre drum that you can sell to Sainsbury's or Lidl or Aldi or anybody, so long as you've got the right stuff going in. And it's not just, oh, where does it come from? It comes from Malmesbury, which is near Swindon. Next. This one comes a bit further afield. This is from Botswana. But has anyone wondered about the skinny little chickens running around the village and whether they're actually any good to eat? This is about helping farmers in the rural areas go from back farm, farmer's yard type, backyard type chicken growing into something that's more productive and worthwhile. So there's teaching, there's growing the chickens, there's processing the chickens, there's marketing the chickens, and there's the supermarkets, butchers, and what have you that take the chickens. This is a $25,000 franchisable project. What we're looking for is 54 franchisors to take it into 54 countries, tested in Botswana. And I came across a company that provides these machines. So this is a heat press, this is piston filling, this is bottle blowing, this is bottle washing, filling and labeling. This is briquette machines and cooking oil to biodiesel, and this is waste baling, and this is animal fish feed and heating pellets. Next. Peanut butter machine. This is a top seller in South Africa, I'm told. Coconut juicing and crushing, coconut float, hatchery, spices. I love this one. This is a wall printing machine. Can you imagine having a university with a wall where you can change the design of the wall every few days?
It's incredible.
Next. So this is the story of the $7.1 billion project that came from the man in Oxford. I was the British African in London. And when I started this company, when I started this process, I knew one African in the UK. And he was a Congolese friend of mine living in London. And he said, I like what you're doing with this, David. Can you go to the Cameroon High Commission? And we had a lovely conversation because my grandfather worked in Cameroon. And they said, come to our National Day celebration, Independence Day celebration. We're going to have a reception, fancy hotel, West London. I went along. I met a bishop from Kenya. He said, David, what do you do? And I've told him more or less the same story that I told you. He said, you must come and meet my friend in Oxford. We have a group now. We should have a group in Oxford. So I went and I met a Nigerian in Oxford. And as I said, he rang me. He said, David, I've not spoken. Hello, Chief. How are you? He said, I need you to talk to my friend in the butcher. He wants you to do a railway. And you know the rest. But actually, we've taken that railway through approvals from 2 governments, from 2 ministers of transport. We've got the certifications we need to go into feasibility funding. So that's what we're going. It's only taken 5 years. Only 5 years. But that's what we've done. So next. For those of you who would like to dip your hand in your pocket, I say that becoming. We have a range of memberships. The memberships should suit your company, should suit your position. Next. And that's what we do. British African Business Alliance, for our members and you, linking business to Africa. People, most importantly people, knowledge, technology, funding, investment, accelerating economic development. Because I don't want to stand here next year and say we got to $1,670. I want to see us at 3,200. I want that to go to 5,000. Why should we not be getting towards 10,000? So thank you for your attention. I'm glad that you came. Nice to meet you. I'll do it again if they let me.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. That was a very, very wonderful and insightful session. I really enjoyed it. You shared loads of information. I don't know if anyone has a question. Well, I have one.
Okay.
So I just wanted to see. So I noticed part of your project, you mentioned Sierra Leone, about having a house project in Sierra. I think it's just a personal question to me because I recently interned with an energy company, and also in the same Sierra Leone, they were able to build a wind farm in a village in Sierra Leone, and now you're also providing low-cost housing. So I don't know what's the secret. Is it that the government in Sierra Leone are so much after the progress of the country? Because I feel like with my research, most companies, it's always Sierra Leone and it's always beautiful ideas.
Let me tell you the story because it's a bit shaggy dog that I'll tell you. So with a friend of mine from Zambia, we decided we were going to do ZAMA, Zambian Business Alliance. And we had a meeting with the High Commission. They said, yes, we welcome this. And we set up a date and we promoted it. And then from there, we went to the embassy and we had an evening with drinks and food and people and what have you. And one of my friends said to this African lady at the station, are you coming to the Zambian High Commission this evening? She says, no. I said, why not? I'm from Sierra Leone. Really? Okay. Well, we're going to a party at the Zambia. You must come. And she came. And she was introduced to me later in the evening. She said, David, you must do this for my country. And so that's where I started with Sierra Leone. And I didn't know anything very much about Sierra Leone. But by starting there, I was introduced to a number of people who were from Sierra Leone, and we started the Sierra Leone Business Alliance. So if you have a connection with Sierra Leone, I shall be looking for you to join.
Wow.
Yes. That meeting, I met my friend Mary's uncle. So this is how it works. He introduced me to Mary. Mary runs a business in Rome, and she is the one who has initiated the program with the Sierra Leone government to say, we will build low-cost houses. We will develop the training for young people in Sierra Leone to be able to build those houses. And so that is how it came about. Now, for the government, they want more houses for their civil servants. They want more houses for their people in Freetown. But we're also looking at Bow, and we're looking at a number of other places, some of which I can remember and some of which I can't. So that's how Sierra Leone came about. And then Mary sponsored my trip to Sierra Leone to Freetown last time. She even laid on entertainment.
Wow.
She said, you can't go back. She organised a coup. No, she didn't. But there was a coup. We couldn't leave when we planned, so I had an extra few days in Sierra Leone. But it is about people recognizing the need and coming forward. I want to hear more about the wind farm because we'll maybe have to take that to Zambia.
Okay. How about Nigeria?
Oh, of course. Of course. Lots to.
I have a question. It's okay. I can speak loudly.
Okay.
I'm quite interested in sort of solar technology applicable in Nigeria.
Yeah.
As you know, there is a huge need for electricity there. The solar market has come some way. Because actually, I was interested in creating something in that with a friend of mine who I lost about 3 years ago. So that kind of went down the tube. However, I think you showed us a slide that had, I think it was on the container. Or,
Yeah.
Is that something that could potentially be taken there
Yes.
and grown?
So I remember.
Because I am in touch with somebody who actually is in that area now, and she's done a lot of work teaching,
So do you,
training local people.
do you know the Agbara estate on the edge of Lagos?
Yes.
I stay close. That was why I used to stay close to my house in Lagos as well.
Yeah.
So at the Agbara estate, Sopac have established an office because their sister company, Green Heart Energy, is building a 50 megawatt gas and steam power plant. And they're also building a major solar farm there. Now, if you wanted to have a conversation with Mike Eyre, who owns the company, I can set that up. He would be interested in any solar project, from the village thing that comes with the solar pack installation I showed, or 10, 50, 100 megawatts from a large scale solar farm. He's run power stations in the UK, he's run power stations in South Africa, he's working across a number of countries. I'd be very happy making that introduction. At a different level, we're working with a company from Zimbabwe called Kumusha Power, and they are doing individual housing programs. And they are looking at marketing through the diaspora here for the money to be dealt with here and for the installation to be put in that. And that's where you bring it down to, where am I, what can I afford, and if I can get it for less than 200 quid, that would be good.
That would be a good one, because I mean, both our interests. I say I'm in touch with somebody who actually has an institute that trains people to create solar panel.
Absolutely.
So, that will fit in.
Exactly.
With the other end, which is for the individual.
And I know that if Mike could get solar panels at low cost for good quality in Nigeria, he'd prefer not to pay for the ships to bring to China.
So just the question my brother asked, I'm from Sierra Leone, and I'm working with the British African Business Alliance. Sierra Leone is a virgin ground, a population of 5 to 7 million, just maybe a small city in Nigeria. The people, there's not even up to Lagos, maybe Benin City and all the rest of it. So Sierra Leone is a virgin ground, and everything you put inside produces much. But the citizens or the natural Sierra Leonean doesn't want to invest in their country. Some of them prefer to be in the diaspora for 20, 30 years. So we also welcome foreigners. Like, for example, when Mr. David traveled to Sierra Leone, they spent like 2 to 3 hours before crossing, the airport is out of the city, is in Waterloo, Lunge, while the capital city is in Sierra Leone. But we consider Lunge to be Sierra Leone, so you have to cross over the sea, the river, or whatsoever thing. And it took Mr. David like 2 to 3 hours before he crosses over, because that was the national ferry.
6 hours.
6 hours,
From the airport, from the plane landing to reaching my apartment.
Yeah, but we have a fast boat, they call it boat, and it's owned by a Nigerian. So you can see that the citizens, the indigents don't want to invest, so the foreigners come. But that's the reason why we have the civil war, because we entertained foreigners to the extent that they came and took over our land, so they brought war on us. So everybody is interested in Sierra Leone, because anything you put there yield greater fruit, and we go in for it, because we, the Sierra Leoneans, don't want to have this innovation. That's the reason why Mr. David is one of the perfect person. We are planning 1,000 or more houses, vocational institutes, and college, hospitality and management, because the whole of West Africa as a whole, we don't have a school like Rome, where I have masters in hospitality management and I speak 4 languages. I work in the hospitality management sector. But I think the whole of West Africa, we don't even have a hospitality management school where we can say we do reception, we do housekeeping, we do catering, we just have various diplomat courses and others. So we are planning in collaboration with the British Africa to bring this to Sierra Leone, especially so that the whole of Africa can come to Sierra Leone and even have more training. So we are bringing that. You understand? So we are all welcome, no matter where you're coming from, as long as we are all from Africa, to bring innovations, initiative, development, or what have you in Sierra Leone. You're all welcome.
Thank you very much.
My name is Liberty. I'm from Zimbabwe. And one of the things that this topic is really pertinent to a lot of the issues that especially confront, I speak from a Zimbabwean perspective and from an African perspective in general as well. This is a stunning topic that we have discussed a lot, especially whenever we have our meetings. And one of the key points that comes out of that is the information asymmetry. Like, for example, you were talking about how many people knew about this meeting, or how many people knew about facilities such as the one you had. Because we were talking, and that stemmed from one discussion we were having, because I was working on a project that we were planning to implement back home, called Omnipox, sorry, which is a modular system. It's a containerized modular solution system which address issues in healthcare, issues in energy, and issues in food security, such as food processing. And I'm glad you brought up avocados, because that's one of the things that we're planning to address, in terms of food processing and everything. But the information asymmetry extends to also the element of, most of the people know the problems that confront us, and they know that those problems directly translate into the opportunities that can be addressed with the right ecosystem, with the right funding, and with the right expertise on board, maybe to formulate business plans that are sustainable. However, no one knows where to go, because there is no body and no institution that disseminates this information and facilitates an intuitive process on how you can access the funding, access the expertise. Like, one of the things that we're talking about was how we can, for example, get the entrepreneurs, how we can get some of the redundant facilities in the higher education institutions. Like, I'm from a small agrarian economy, agricultural town called Chinoi. There's a University of Technology there. There's excess capacity there where they can develop homegrown solutions to process the agricultural produce instead of it being shipped abroad with low margin raw materials. And also how we can mechanize a lot of the subsistence farming there with micro tillage, and how to formulate, because the topography is also is virgin territory for things like micro hydro systems. There's a Kenyan model that I saw which can translate beautifully to address, the blackouts that we have there that can be resolved. The plans already exist. So who to talk to? That was where the problem.
Exactly, and I've spent 15 years building the network as far as I've built it.
Yes.
Okay. What I've come across is a reluctance. Who's this man?
Yes.
Why is he wanting my money? I have other things to do. Nice to meet you. And that's what I've experienced for 15 years. When I started, I said, what we're missing is a business plan. All the projects I'm already processing and thinking, right, there's a vocational college that can sit alongside the university. They can start to deal with training the young people who haven't managed to enter the university for formal education.
Yes.
The money is available. The Minister of Education, who I met in Nottingham earlier this year, is looking for 3,000 secondary schools in Zimbabwe. It's a building project that we could use the building machine that I showed you earlier. It's about building the links. Are you going to the Zimbabwe UK event in Birmingham next week?
That's the thing. I didn't even know about, but now that you mention it, that's something that I'll definitely have to.
Partly because the chairman of ZEDA will be there, the Zimbabwe Investment Development Agency.
Yes.
Will be there. A number of banks there. There are a number of people from different parts of Zimbabwe looking at the regional development of Zimbabwe who will be there. So we'll talk afterwards, and I'll give you the flyer. It's free to attend. I've seen it advertised extensively, but maybe I'm looking in different places to you. And That's it. But I believe there should be a Zimbabwe Business Alliance. We've created a partnership affiliation with the Zimbabwe UK Business Chamber, but their reach is not very far. I think it's something over 13,000 Zimbabwean business leaders in the UK, no Chamber of Commerce, apart from the one that started in England. So we need to develop those conversations. But it is about having the conversations. It's the people and the knowledge. You are the people, you have the knowledge. The technology is available. Go to Penrith in Cumbria. There is a company called Gilks there. They've been putting micro hydro, small hydro into Africa for over 100 years. So what they don't know, what they've forgotten, nobody needs to know. So it's there, it's available. It's waiting for you to say, how do we solve this problem in this place?
Yes.
So what I'm looking at is taking your question and saying, okay, there are 5 or 6 or 7 different aspects to that question. Where does ecosystem fit in your agricultural model? Where does the 185 million going into the 10,000 member farmers union fit with your model? It may be that that funding is available to you because some of the people you're talking are already members of that union. I don't know. But it's there to be done. And part of the job that we have to do is facilitate around that. I've noticed that over recent years, the embassy has strengthened its trade team. There are now 3 people where there was 1. And the ambassador can't do it all by himself. So we start the conversation today.
Thanks.
You have a question as well.
Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. Though I came late, but I was glad to see that Nigeria, my country, was on your presentation. Just like my brother asked, what are the next projects coming to Nigeria? And how can we, the individual, the young generation that is coming up like me, also can be partnership to enable to build something like this in my country? Nigeria, I will be glad to see and to be part of this growth and my children so to have the history and also pass through. How can we benefit? And what is the financial implication? And how can government also help to subsidize the financial implication and be involved in the project to get this result? How is the feasibility of payment? I'm really much interested. Thank you.
It's not questions. Just one question back to you. Where in Nigeria are you?
Lagos State.
Lagos State.
Yeah.
Okay. I made a presentation to Lagos State 4 years ago on the vocational college thing. We took it to an agreement to do 9,000 houses, to develop 6 vocational colleges, and to do all of those sorts of things. And then, as often happens in Nigeria, the trail went cold. However, we will reactivate that. And I think that what I would say to you is what I say to people who say, how do I make money in Africa? I say, walk down the street. Down the street, what do you see? What do you have here that you don't have there? How do we put that in place? So it comes down to a very personal interchange between you and what you want to achieve because you have the knowledge that I, sitting in Sussex, don't have. I know some of it because I visit regularly and I can see what is needed, but it's not for me to lead that, it's for you to lead that. So you say, in my village, in my community, we need a baker, we need this, we need that, we need the other. You specify, we then work with our members and contacts to help put that in place. You made an interesting point about where's the money coming from, the investment. One of the projects that I should have done last year, and I was asked again to write the paper on it the other day. If you're a UK citizen and you invest in an SME here, there is a thing called the EIS scheme, and that is the Enterprise Investment Scheme. And it gives you various tax advantages so that your risk in investing in the small company is reduced. And when you look at the prospectus from a company, it will say this qualifies for EIS, tax relief. There is also an SEIS, but it's focused on the UK. And the paper that I want to write is called the Diaspora Enterprise Investment Scheme. And I think that what we ought to be doing is looking at funds, and this is what I have to put on paper, so I'll try and describe it for you, where people can invest a portion of the tax that they pay into a fund that then they can draw on later when they say, I want to take my building machine and I want to build 10 houses. I want to take this thing. So long as they spend it on UK equipment and UK services, the government shouldn't have too much of a problem with that because they do it for UK businesses. Why can they not do it for African businesses or even Indian, Pakistani or Filipino industries as well? We have a very rich ethnic community here that has a lot of contributions to make in all sorts of areas. And we ought to be looking at how we fine-tune what we provide for UK citizens for people whose direction, orientation is outside the UK. So long as there's benefit for us too. But those are the sorts of things. Now, there are various people who give grants. There are various people who provide low-cost funding. There is the Nigerian Business Angels Network. So depending on what money you want, how much you want, you can go. British government and Nigerian government they have their backs turned at the moment. We're not talking to you, which is silly, but it's part of the process that we're working through. So there's not a lot coming from UK government for Nigeria specifically at the moment, but that will change over time. But there are lots of other people who are looking at it. So again, it's make it specific, build a plan, qualify that plan so that when you take it to someone who knows, they can look at it to say, this has been thought through. They see your workings, they understand what you're going to do. I had a man come to me on Thursday, he sent me his plan. There isn't one financial figure in it. It's a huge land development. And I asked him how much money he needed. He told me 250 million naira. And I went to Google and I worked out that's 112,000 pounds. And I wondered how he was going to do 10,000 hectare development with 112,000 pounds. The thinking is not there, the business plan is not there. Focus on that, turn the dream into a reality on paper, talk to people. There's a huge amount of money within the diaspora for investment into African countries. But it's my money and I'm not giving it to you unless you can give me a reason and show me clearly when you're going to give it back to me. One more.
Thank you so much, Mr. Davey. I came late, but I got a good feeling for what is happening. And I want to thank you for the commitment to this kind of work, because developmental work does not pay instantly. So it takes a lot of patience and a lot of long-term focus to be able to do it. So the first question, I have two questions to be sincere. The first question is about media. How do people like us, younger people, talk more about these very good projects? Because mainstream media do not talk about it a lot. And we now have a generation of young people that spend more time on socials. Someone like myself, I have like 500,000 following. There is a kind of thing that if I know, and we know the intention, we know the plan is there, we can always talk about it in the communities, you know, and just get more people to know that despite the challenges, good things are happening. And these are the kind of results that has happened somewhere, we can replicate it here. So getting the storytelling to be coming out, some of us will visit, you know, we'll go around, we'll take the cameras there, we'll visit, we'll show people, and when you build credibility over a while and people know that what you say is as close to the truth as possible, then we'll get more traction and we'll get more people committed to it. So how do we get like a trove of information to know what Baba is doing next, what Baba has done in the past, and just sending the message out? So it's just to get that academic.
Are you based here in Cambridge?
No, London.
In London?
Yes.
Okay, so we can meet in London and we can talk and I can tell you the things. I have to be a little careful because I can't really tell you about Mary's project until she says that I can tell you about it. So a lot of what I've said this morning is highly confidential. But at the same time, there are projects going on. Like the man in Eritrea, he bought the building machine and turned over $300,000 in his first year. I can introduce you to the company in Stourbridge who make that machine and the sort of things that they've done. So the story about building 2,000 houses and moving the 2,000 families out of the Kibera slum in Nairobi, and the things that they've done in Malawi, and all sorts of other bits and pieces. There are lots of case histories that can come out of what our members are doing. So yes, we can talk that through. My biggest problem, though, in addressing your question, is that we have 6,292 business professionals in Cambridge with links to Africa who aren't talking to each other. Now, I don't know whether to lay that at the door of social media and say they're all on social media looking at your stories, but they're not addressing what they can do in Cambridge. Could be the case. But I would like to just comment on social media and the impact that it's having on a number of people. Because when you take, be careful how I say this, so please be gentle with me if I say it wrong. But if you take Facebook and the amount of Facebook connections that I showed at the beginning of my presentation, that is the biggest advertising campaign for UK, Western Europe, and the United States that says to the man sitting on the boy, the girl sitting on the dusty side of the road, you're missing out. Go to this place, get in the rubber boat, swim across the channel, do what you can to get there, because then you can drive Dr. Tumi's Mercedes. Then you can live in Dr. Akan's castle. But you get the picture. We've actually got to find a way of putting the mechanics in place where actually, look how they're doing this, and all their salad is made with avocado oil. And let's go down to here, let's go down to there and get the flow going the other way, because the universities and colleges of further education are delivering what is needed on the ground where it is. So that whole conversation needs to be taken to a much more sophisticated level, and I'd really like to work with you on it.
Okay, the second question is vocational.
Yeah.
Africa has the youngest continent by far in terms of young people, and it's unfortunately has one of the highest unemployment.
Yeah.
And part of it is skills.
Yeah.
I've worked in UK construction for more than 10 years. I started as a laborer and worked my way up. I have seen people that do not really need to go to university. They just need to be a very, very good and competent electrician, a very good and competent plumber, or a bricklayer. One thing that I've noticed back home is that people talk about having trade skills, but the attention to detail, the quality, you don't see it the way you see it in a normal NVQ trained person. So with the model of vocational colleges that we are having, how can we kind of like scale the same thing you said we were having the discussion with Lagos State? We have a very serious need for very, very skilled people. You know, how can we get them to have those kind of city and guilds kind of qualifications where, you know, when they point a block, the 10 mil is 10 mil, when they do the tiling, the level is perfect, you know, and they can take pride in their work. because they will get paid for it in college. But that scaling of vocational colleges, I want to kind of get more into where the discussions are so far, because there are people yearning for it. You know, they may walk across West Africa if they are very, very skilled. And skilled artisans are rare. So it's a discussion that I hope we can take forward just to help more young people to say, if you are a skilled carpenter, you can actually make much more than sitting as a cashier in the bank, just getting very, very low ends.
So I was invited in 2017 to Benin City to meet with religious leaders and traditional rulers there as part of the symposium with a whole stack of people from UK and Europe in the Nigerian related community. And we sat down at the symposium to discuss youths off the street, which is their understanding of what they wanted. And I argued against it. We want youths on the streets, but we want them contributing in the way that you just described. Out of that came a program that I devised because the thinking that I was given by the people at the symposium was about how to motivate young people. Now, we were in discussion with the government in Côte d'Ivoire at the time for the building of 10,000 houses for uniformed staff. So army, police, fire brigades, all those sorts of people. And they had the money and they had the mortgages to pay for the houses. They didn't have the money to build the houses. So we were talking with an investor and he committed to $220,000 to building the 10,000 houses. So roughly $20,000 a house. And I took that together with the building machine that I showed you all earlier, which is a manually operated block making machine with which you can build 10 to 12 houses in a year. And I said, well, if I link that to an experience that I had through my school, which was the wind came in the winter and blew the cricket pavilion. And the cricket master had nowhere to store the pads and the rollers and stumps and all his kit and what have you. And he had nowhere to welcome the visiting schools when they came to play cricket. So he went to the art master and he said, can you design me a new cricket pavilion? So they did. And it was beautiful. And God saw that it was good. So they went to the master. And he said, here you are, Mr. Butt. He said, wow, that's fabulous. How are you going to pay for it? And their faces fell. I said, you're going to pay for it. He said, I don't know. I count the money in, I count the money out. I don't have budget for it. So they said, go to the parents. So they went to the parents got the wallet out of their pay. And the builder said, that buys the materials, we've got all the B&Q here, etc. But we have no label. So the guys are saying, summer is coming, we need the pavilion, we need to get this going. And then they thought, we have 500 boys in the school between the ages of 14 and 18. Why can they not be the labourers? So the concept that we've developed and we're taking into Sierra Leone is 3 to 5 hectares of land, a football pitch, 18 to 20 classrooms around the football pitch, picking on the needs of that community, but in construction and agriculture and community development. And then beyond the classrooms to the edge of the land fields, so that they're actually growing their own food or feed the students during the day. The surplus can be sold in the market. But you're teaching them, and we had a meeting with Tibet UK the other day. They've done a vocational college in Mauritania. They have the links with City and Guilds and others. So the curriculum is there. So wherever you come from, we sit down, we talk about your community, and you say, well, I'm from this place 50 miles from Jos. And then we talk about how the model will work there. And the model that we have is 500 to 1,000 houses built by the students, paid for by civil servants, diaspora, and other qualified workers using mortgage from the National Mortgage, Nigerian Mortgage Bank. And providing a circular economy that allows somewhere in the region of 3,000 to 3,500 kids in each community to be paid, to be trained. And I calculated that out by my 774 times table. For non-Nigerians here, that's the number of local government areas in Nigeria. And that's about 774,000 OSSs and 774 vocational colleges. And that is on the desk of the Minister of Housing and the Minister of Employment. And when I get their answers next week, I'll let you know. Thank you. That's what we're doing. Physical things, using some of the equipment that we showed you there to enable those people to do amazing things in their own community.
Can I just add to that? I think they're taught well. There's a mentality of I'm just taking shortcuts and get paid.
Yes.
That is what makes the quality of work good. In other words, if they're taught from the get-go that they take pride in the quality of their work and quality of their work will get them
More work.
not more work, more consistent work, and better pay, they will do it.
Just on a point of quality, I was invited by the previous governor of Waigon, Yolan Tupunyo, was in Nigeria 2 Christmases ago. And I went and visited. The reason was he wanted to try and get one of our vocational colleges going before the election. And by December, we were already too late to do anything more than a press release. But they had a vocational college there, and they showed me around. It was 12 hectares that they'd committed, and the lovely buildings that they'd built. Some of the concrete was pretty crumbly, so they weren't using the right machinery, but they built it. And they said, and this is the dormitory, and then here's the bathroom for the students. And they put up a low wall with basins on each side. And I thought, oh, that looks really good. And then I walked around the side and I saw that underneath, behind each basin, all the tiles on the wall that they built had been broken because they put the tiles before they put the pipes. And this is a vocational college that they're building to teach people how to do it right. So when I talk about your community, you could be the college director. You could take responsibility for this project. And it would be part of your responsibility to make sure that the walls built, the pipes were put in, tiles were done, the basins were attached. Yeah. I'm on my way.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. That was a very wonderful one. So, moving on to the next thing, I'd like to invite Dr. Akan side.
Thanks, guys. It's an absolute pleasure.
I guess it's a small room, don't it?
Oh, no,
I
we
wanted.
It's a bit on.
Yeah.
Morning. Good afternoon. Okay, so what I want to do is maybe run us through something that's been on my mind. And I think I would have to readapt it for the audience today. So we're going to get a feel from the audience. How many of us in the room are current students? Let's take a show of hands. Current students, show of hands. How many of us are current professionals? So you're working. How many of us work for us students? Okay, that kind of call, sorry, that's good. Okay, so a few years ago, I wrote a book called The Graduate Code. And the premise for the book is that in every professional, there is a student wanting to learn. And in every student, there's a professional waiting to earn. What simply means is the fact that the most successful students in reality who do really well after graduating are students who start behaving like professionals while they're students. In the same way, the most successful professionals in reality who do amazingly well as professionals are professionals who actually behave like students while they're professional. Because they're always learning new things and getting better at what they do. So I'm supposed to be talking about African students' careers, innovation, and their entrepreneurial mindset. And I want to start with a simple premise. Can everybody here bring out their mobile phones quickly? Could you quickly count for me the number of mobile apps you have? I counted mine Friday. I have 82. How many? Just tell me if you count it. Tell me how many mobile apps you have on your phone. Please. Everybody? Just try your best. Of course you can count. 63. It's fantastic. 63. Anybody beat me? Mine is 82. Can you count the number of mobile apps on your phone? 180. Madam, I bow to your preeminence. Anybody else? What numbers have you got? Anybody?
About 150.
150. That's incredible. Anybody? Boss? How many mobile apps?
93.
93. Yeah, well, I'm truly beating. 153.
72.
72. I beat you, boss.
Yeah.
Mine is a little higher than that.
181.
181. Good Lord, there's a queen in the room. Anybody come close? No, one answer this question. It's a very simple way to paint a picture. So let's look at the phone again. This time around, can you count the number of mobile apps that has been made by an African for Africa? So, for example, if you're Nigerian, I imagine you see companies in Nigeria. So, how many mobile apps do you have that have been made by Nigerian for the Nigerian or a bigger market? So, let's count. Mine is 2, and I can tell you what they are. It's my 2 banks. So, it's Guarantee Trust Bank and Eco Bank. Anybody else? Well, you count. How many mobile apps have you got? 3. Made by Nigeria for Africa. Anybody else?
I don't know if SAPSEN is sent by Nigerian. SAPSEN.
No, that's been Nigerians. Sierra
No, Sierra Leone, of course, don't go there.
Leone? So let's not fundamentally.
Maybe I'll
I
go
think
3.
3. Okay. So I get in the picture. So just in your hand. So I'm letting this premise so you understand that every mobile app you see, the intention of the creator of the app is to solve a problem. No matter how small. Every mobile app you see, even a mobile app that is just all about fun, is solving a problem of boredom. So let the function of that it makes money. And that was the mobile app on your app. If you ask the creator, the reason why they put it together is because it's solving a problem. Okay? And what it shows to me is the fact that how can there be a continent that is be dealt by so many problems, and yet there is no creative, intentional, or strategic ways just by measurement of mobile app to solve the problems. I'm blessed to sit down with very top international donor meetings. In the last maybe 4 years, probably won in excess of 40 million pounds in research grants. Just in the last 4 years, about 40 million pounds in grants. And each time I sit down in international meetings where we're trying to put together a proposal for a new grant, what normally happens is this. So you find 2 professors in the room, and one prof will say to the other prof, how about we put together a proposal to solve this problem? And somebody will say, no, don't worry. That problem was solved last year. So this is in the UK, by the way. And another prof will say, how about we revise the proposal to solve this other problem? And somebody will say, don't bother. Why? There is a PhD student working on the solution as we speak. So I'll bring this room, guys, and they will spend hours and hours actually looking for a problem to solve. Now, you and I know that's not the case in Africa, because in the morning, before you wake up, Dr. Problem wakes you up. Okay? Before you leave your door, you've seen 55 problems. Now, if problems, and if problems are raw materials for creativity, innovation, and business enterprise, okay? That means I can say Africa is blessed with problems. So in fact, when you wake up in the morning, what you should be praying should be, Lord, today, bombard me with problems. It's a very special prayer, but it's a prayer that is filled with insight. A bold prayer. And Lord, today as I go, slap me with problems on every side. Because therein lies the raw materials for innovation. I remember one day I was flying from Nairobi to Amsterdam to Nairobi. And this flight, it's my very good friend, and David knows this. This is like 3 years ago. In this flight, I looked down the plane, and I can say, just by going by the color of their skin, so do pardon me, over 90% of the passengers were white. So I'm thinking, what are they going to do in Africa? So Africa was a continent with problems. You know that picture you see in TV with the fly hovering over the little boy. So why are they going there? If you think about it carefully, it's very simple. The reason going there, true, is because I know this is my speech to my British friends. When you guys say going to Africa, they tell me Africa is where it's happening. Africa is where the money is. And I talk to my African brothers and sisters, and I said, what about Africa? And they tell me nonsense and ingredients. Nothing works. The government is useless. So there seems to be something the non-African has seen about Africa that Africans have not seen. You wonder why David keeps going to Africa. Because there is something even David has seen. I live in England, but 95% of my work is in Africa. Because guess what? I have seen it too. What they've seen, I've seen it. Okay? But then, if you ask the African, they tell you, well, there's a term in Nigeria called Japa. So Japa is like, they don't know what Japa is. Japa means the syndrome of leaving the continent overseas, where things are happening. So while non-Africans are Baja, there's the reverse. Africans are Japa. The disconnect somewhere. Okay? Now, the disconnect is fundamental because the continent that is bedeviled by the highest portfolio of problems is a continent that is blessed with opportunities. Is that simple? It means it helps you to think about problems a bit differently. So when I wake up in the morning and go outside and I see a problem, I've done this so many times, I can't even help myself. I feel an excitement in my tummy when I see a problem. Because there's an opportunity to provide a solution and on the back of which you rise. Now, I want to narrow it down. That's why I asked how many students, how many professionals. Just outside, before I came in, before everybody came in, a young man is in the room, asked me a simple question. And the question he asked me was quite interesting when he says, John, so how long have you been in the UK? I said, I've been in the UK now maybe 21 years. I've been in the UK 21 years. And he was like, if you were to give me one single advice as a student, so one big single advice, what would it be? Then about it for a second, and I thought, I think I probably know what it should be. And I'm speaking to the students in the room. And I thought, the biggest advice, which I think is the biggest problem the average African student makes when it comes to the UK, is while you are doing that principal thing that brought you to the UK, try doing something else alongside it. And I will explain what I mean. So you come to the UK to do a master's degree. Okay? In the first 3 months, you are just seeing smoke because there is reports to write. We said that she gives laughing. There is reports to write, essays to submit, meetings to attend. 3 months is just gone by. This one actually happens in reality. I'm saying so because it happened to me too. So 6 months have gone by, you're literally from one thing to the other. You can squeeze in a little part-time job working in a care home like I did. In between this lecture to notes, and lecture notes to reports. And before you know it, by the 8th month, then the first time you think, wait a minute, the next few weeks or few months, I will be finishing the master's. So what do? Now, you now launch yourself into a frenzy. So when you get to panic mode. And so whatever comes your way, you take. I did a small post just yesterday, and I was saying, sorry. Okay, so he just reminded me I'm supposed to just talk for 5 minutes. I'm supposed to do like a teaser to my big talk. Okay, so I'm hoping that you will come for the big talk after break. Okay. So anyway, and I was thinking, I've had too many stories of African students who have spent 10 million naira, I don't know, 20,000 pounds for tuition fees to come and study in the UK. And after their masters, I asked them, what are you doing now? I'm a laborer. I spent 10,000 pounds doing a master's degree in chemical engineering. And afterwards, as a student, so where are you working now? I'm a carer in an old people's home. Except you are analyzing some chemicals in the home. I have no idea what you're doing in a care home for the elderly after spending that much money doing a master's in chemical engineering. This is the disconnect between that other expectation and the reality you face. Interestingly, there are actual strategies to make you navigate and get it done well. On that note, I'm keeping you hanging. Because after break, I want to bombard you with strategies of how to do it and do it well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. I can't wait to hear the strategies. So I think it's time for the lunch break. How many?
Let's go like 30 minutes, please. It's time to have a lunch. Let's just take a break. And then, of course, get to know each other. The lunch is at the foyer here. Please, let's come along and get to know each other, exchange conversation, and, of course, exchange contact. Thank you.
Can I show them the way to the place? Yes, please. I don't know. This is sorry. What name?
There is schedule.
Jimmy?
Yeah, it's schedule.
Yes.
Yes.